Hello, and welcome to the Divorced Dadvocate, divorce support for dads, where we help dads create a healthy and less traumatic divorce. My name is Jude Sandoval, and I'm your host. I created this podcast in the Divorced Advocate community as a result of my own high conflict divorce, and because you as a dad deserve all the resources necessary to thrive through this challenging time. I encourage you to check out our website at thedivorcedadvocate.com, where there are resources that correspond to this episode, as well as free access to our membership community, where you will find live meetings, free workshops and courses, private discussion groups, and more. And now, on to this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to the show. I am so pleased that you are here today, and I am very excited about my guest and the conversation that we are about to have. She and I know each other from another business avenue, if you will, and we've only briefly talked a little bit about divorce, but I am so excited to hear more about the work that she's doing. And so stay tuned. Before I jump in and introduce her, though, I do want to welcome a few new members to the community. Tom Duge, I don't know what a Duge or who a Duge is, but Duge, welcome to the community, and James. And if you're not part of the Divorced Advocate community, check out the website at divorcedadvocate.com and click on the membership tab and get involved. We've got group meetings, we've got workshops, we've got the extended version of this podcast episode. So if you're not a member, you're not going to be able to hear the entire talk that we're going to have today. So become a member and get all of the podcast episodes, as well as blogs and everything else. And if you haven't taken a divorce quiz yet, do that. It is a great opportunity to gauge where you're at in your divorce compared to others who have gone through it. Again, that's at the website as well at thedivorcedadvocate.com under the divorce quiz tab. Check it out. All right. My guest today is a spiritual therapist and CEO with TBR Spiritual Health, and she helps people overcome the trauma of divorce and cultivate healthy relationships. As a 2023 finalist for the Better Business Bureau Torch Awards for Ethics and author of Verbal Turbulence. Wow, I've got 3 teens, so I got a lot of verbal turbulence at my house. The 70-20-10 rule. She focuses on cultivating your inner relationships with self, intuition, higher self, and anything beyond that for you. She guides you to develop your self-leadership and self-ownership so you can cultivate a life that is in better alignment with yourself. Please welcome to the show, Wendy Watson. How you doing, Wendy?
Hi, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it is going great. And I just want to thank you again for all of your patience this week. Wendy and I have been going back and forth in scheduling, and I have just been an absolute cluster. This week, I got to blame it on the week. The week has been an absolute cluster, which has in turn made me an absolute cluster. So it's made me an absolute cluster of a show host. So I apologize and thank you for your flexibility. And so I'm excited now to be finally having a conversation. So if you will, please. So I got the intro, but share a little bit more with the audience about how and why you started working with divorced people. And then also maybe what prompted you to write the book and why a book on verbal, and we're going to get into details on what verbal turbulence is, because I love the phrase, and I feel like I got a lot of it in my life, but we're going to find out.
Yeah, it actually took me about 2 hours to come up with those 2 words together.
Nice.
But as soon as it did, it just clicked. So I am a child of divorce. My parents have been divorced twice, married 3 times. The first and third time to each other, 20 years apart.
Wow.
Right. So there's that. And of course, I fell into the same pattern. So I've got my own 2 divorces. And after my second divorce, I was just like, I took a look around at my community and the people I was collecting. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing that I'm attracting these people, that I'm collecting the narcissists, the addicted personalities, the drama-fulfilled people, and what am I doing to not pick the right person? Am I not vetting them enough? Do I have my own bad habits? Like, what is going on? And so I really spent the last 8 years really focusing on all of that and my spiritual path and my journey and all the things to get to the point of where I am, that I just released my book in August. I started writing it in January. I was done by the end of May.
Wow.
It only took me 4.5 months to write it. That's how dedicated I was.
Awesome.
Because I think the number one thing in any relationship, business, client, parent, child, spousal, it comes down to communication.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've noticed since it was brought to my attention in 2009, what I've noticed is that people's communications is like 70% of their communication is all of their own stuff. That's what they're projecting onto people, is their own stuff. And only 20% of it is a combination of that and it being directly personal to the conversation or to the person that they're talking to. But only 10% is actually personal to the person that they're talking to or the conversation at hand. And it's no wonder why the divorce rate is so high, why people fail in relationships all the time. Like, I know a lot of entrepreneurs that aren't getting long-term clients. A lot of family relationships don't go well and they have to divorce their parent or divorce their uncle or whatever. And so I just want to help people figure out their communication, because I don't feel like you can build trust and loyalty without effective communication. And without trust and loyalty, you don't have a solid, healthy relationship.
Absolutely. That's 100% true. So you mentioned 70, 20, 10. I want to get to that, but you also meant, like, I thought it was great. You mentioned about like the community that we're collecting. And so it took 2 divorces for you. Maybe your 2 divorces combined were as insane as my 1 divorce. I don't know, but the point being is that we all have something. And you said, well, something was brought to my attention in 2009. Like, we all have something that kind of prompts us, leads us, shakes us to, is a 2x4. Like, I'm a slow learner, so it usually takes me getting hit upside the head with the same thing over and over again, multiple times before I figure out. So I'm just curious, what was that in 2009 that helped you to like have this aha?
It was when my audit manager, I was working in accounts payable for corporate America at the time, and I was a complete perfectionist. I don't know a lot of women that aren't perfectionists, but and even men sometimes. But it wasn't boding well. It never had bode well for cultivating healthy working relationships. So while I was good at my job, I had a lot of people that didn't enjoy working with me. And so my audit manager came to me one day and he's like, look, as long as 70% of the invoices get processed without incident, 20% get escalated to management, and 10% we write off, that's our goal. And I was like, you're willing to write stuff off. Like, growing up on a construction site, you don't write stuff off. You have to figure out a way to make the client happy and give the client what they asked for, what they're paying for. So to write stuff off was a whole new concept. And then it was, well, great. Now I don't have to be perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And then I just naturally took that and started looking at it through the lens of communication, and it changed everything.
Wow. So that's really interesting. And I'd venture to say that most folks that are listening here are probably faster learners than at least I was, because they're diving in and trying to figure things out, as they're going through this challenging time of divorce. So I just want to give a shout out and kudos to anybody that's listening, because it's, taking that first step and having that awareness to try to understand and do better and and make the effort is going to serve not only you, but it's going to serve your kiddos also. And so just the fact that you're tuning in, that you're listening to us, like it's really, really unbelievably fantastic. And then on that note also, I forgot to mention that Wendy's going to have a special offer for you at the end of the show as well. So because you're here, because you're listening, because she loves you, because she can definitely help you and does an amazing work, she's going to have an offer at the end of the show. So stay tuned all the way through because you're going to get a bunch of pearls between now and then as well. So on that note, pearls, let's dive into the book, Verbal Turbulence. And if you can start with the definition of verbal turbulence, and then let's dive more into 70-20-10.
Right. So verbal, if you think of the word turbulence, right, and it's really chaotic, it's not very structured, it's just kind of swirling around, right? And that's how I see most people's communication. They don't think it, and I had the same issue. Trust me, I had my whole life up until about this time. I had that issue. I cannot tell you how many jobs I got fired from for being abrasive.
You joined the club, right? Okay.
Right. Okay. So, like, just our communication is just so turbulent that we're not thinking about it. We're not intentional with it, right? A lot of the times we'll just respond out of habit, or we'll just respond out of emotion, right? And have that knee-jerk reaction instead of thinking through all of that and thinking through the logic and doing the research and then intentionally coming up with a fully planned response.
Yes.
That is basically the essence of my book, is how to get through all of that turbulence and how to calm it down and how to find the gratitude and everything so that you're not thinking in the negative patterns, the body shaming, the curse words because somebody cut in front of you on the freeway, right? There's two options. You can either curse them out and be like, you jerk, you just cut me off. Or
and there's another option? Are you sure?
There's another option.
Oh,
it's called gratitude. It's called thank you for not hitting me.
Oh, okay.
Right? You can say thank you for not hitting me and be on your way. If you're having a bad day, bless you. I hope it gets better, right? So, yeah, it's about getting through all of that and finding a calmness, a peace with your communication, and really honing in on it and finding an intention with it.
Okay. So my question is that unless somebody has taught you this growing up, or at some point you had a mentor or a teacher or somebody in adolescence or early adult life, most of us fall into just this verbal turbulence. You turn on the news, you read the newspaper, listen to the radio, whatever. It feels to me like it's almost all verbal turbulence.
Yes. I had, my mom used to love to gossip. So that was one of the habits that I picked up from her. And then, right, but in an office with a bunch of women, that's not exactly a good idea.
Right.
Right. And then they would be like, oh, well, you're gossiping. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know what that means. All I'm doing is venting about this, or that. And then they're like, that is gossiping. And I was like, oh, right. So unless we have somebody to point it out, then a lot of the times it's our habits that we were taught growing up.
Right. And then like you said, well, why do we pick the same people then? Because then we attract all the same stuff that we had growing up or early adult life. And that's what we know.
Right. If you grew up poor, you just know what it's like to be poor. You don't know what it's like to have money and to be able to buy whatever you want. Right. So if you, like, I was brought up in an emotionally immature, ineffective communication household. So of course I picked two narcissistic husbands, almost had to get restraining orders against both of them. Because of their toxic patterns. And so when I asked that question to myself after my second divorce, it represented my family.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Jude with a quick reminder about the Divorced Advocate Foundation for Fathers, which is our nonprofit that helps dads through divorce with legal education, free or reduced cost coaching, and mental health resources. If you own a business or know someone who does, there's an easy way to help by connecting credit card processing through our partner program. Part of the fees go straight to the foundation with no added cost to the business, and 98% of businesses are actually able to save money on their processing fees. It's a win-win. So if you know a business that accepts credit cards, get them in touch with me by sending a warm introduction email to jude@thedivorcedadvocate.com or give me a call directly at 720-255-1021. Right. Yeah. And interesting how that worked. And then I, anybody who's listening to more than one of these podcast episodes knows that I always say that divorce is an opportunity. Like divorce can be an opportunity for you. And I know, and again, if you're just listening for the first time and you're hearing me say that, I know you're going, what the hell are you talking about, Jude? Because this sucks. And it's just painful and difficult and chaotic and stressful. And like, what opportunity is there in it? But it is an opportunity like what Wendy just described, which is to shine a light on something that you may have learned, a behavior, they call them adaptive behaviors that may have helped you get through your childhood, early adult life, whatever it might be, or a traumatic experience, whatever it may have been, that's now not serving you. Like the gossip one is a great one. Like, wow, I wonder why my relationships are not strong, or why I don't have any, or I keep losing friends. Like I gossip, but we don't know. And so that the good news is in this awakening period, and this opportunity for you to awaken through divorce is it is a self-awareness awakening thing. So you can go, oh, okay, well, this makes sense. And then you can look back and you can kind of go, oh, all right, well, this is why this has happened. Like you just described. Well, oh, husband one, very similar to husband two, very similar to whoever that example was in childhood, right? Yeah. Oh, and I remember my epiphanies around this. Actually, like my 11-year-old at the time had figured this out with my mom, like within months, and I was in my 40s. You know, I've told this story. She asked why is mom, or why is grandma acting like mommy? That was her question.
Oh,
one day at the breakfast table, I'm like, oh wow. Yeah, and that was after just spending like a couple of months with my mom, her grandma, and I'm like, this 11-year-old can see this pattern so fast because she's wide open, and me, I'm in my 40s, just having come to this realization and started to do the work around it. But again, the good news is that it's not your fault. That's the good news I was going to say, and I was going to share. It's not your fault. You survived, whether it's traumatic or whatever. It was an adaptive behavior. Now you're awakening because the divorce is just destroying you and opening you up. And through destruction, there's rebirth and regrowth. So on that note, let's talk about the 70-20-10 rule and how that can do that.
Yeah. So the best example that I love to give, and it's in my book, and I just want to say this to your audience. Everything is repairable. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that is concreted and cemented in. Everything is repairable. Okay. So the example that I love to give is when this was in my second marriage towards the end, and we're each sitting in our own recliner in the living room watching TV. And we're watching like the umpteenth thousandth episode of Duck Dynasty. And I was like, so over it. So I'm just sitting here playing on my phone. Right. And I got bored and I was like, hey, you want to go out for dinner? No. All right. You want to at least go out and get a beer? No. You want to go see some friends or invite anybody over and like have some company? It's like, no. And so I gave up and I just went back onto my phone. And a couple minutes later, he turns his head and he says, you're no fun anymore.
Okay.
And I was like, it kind of took me aback. But then I thought about it for myself. And I was like, do I do the things that I find joyful? No, I don't. Because what did I just do after I asked him if he wanted to do a whole bunch of things? I just got on my phone instead of getting up and doing them anyways. Right? So out of the whole evening, out of the whole conversation, that 10% of the conversation was the most impactful for me. Because number one, it showed me that I wasn't doing the things that I found joy in. I wasn't fun anymore. And number two, it showed me how far we had drifted apart. And that is, that's important to know, right?
Right.
So, you have to find, I suggest the whole 70-20-10 is finding out of the whole conversation, where's the impact, right? Is 70% of the conversation the most impactful or the most important to you? Is it the 20% or is it the 10%?
Okay.
Right?
So let me ask you a question on that 10% then. Would you say that 10% might be something that really triggers you? Like
it could, it could totally be a trigger.
That is something to pay attention to, because if we're triggered, it might be something that's, like you said, like mirroring, like he said something that at face value, or if you're just observing, you'd say that's ridiculous because I just came up with 5 examples of what I wanted to do that was fun. But what you did is, like, instead of getting triggered, go, well, shit, he's exactly right, because I didn't do them. I just talked about them.
Right. So most people, when I tell them that first part of the story, their first reaction is, what a jerk.
Right.
Right. So that's the reaction. That's the emotional aspect of it. That's the trigger.
Okay.
Right. So, but was he a jerk if he showed me something that I needed to know about myself?
Right.
Right. So you can either fall into the drama and fall into his emotions and have that trigger, because that, for most people, if they're like, oh, what a jerk, that could have caused a whole argument.
Right.
Right. And then that could have spiraled into something else. And then you go to bed pissed off and, all the things that go along with that. Or you can sit back and decide one of 3 things. No, I don't agree with it. And he can sit in his own emotions. I do agree with it and I'm okay with it. So you just take ownership of it and manage it. Or number 3, I agree with it and I'm not okay with it. So what am I going to do about it?
Okay. Well, let's break that down then. So I think what we've distilled, so if I'm understanding, what we've distilled is getting through that 90% of the verbal turbulence to find something within the conversation that's that 10 and would be found in that 10% of the conversation. That's something that is, that could be a pearl or a golden nugget or something to identify that that we can then figure out. And instead of, and you mentioned it, instead of then having something like that then trigger you to, like, snap back or to withdraw or whatever,
or start an
argument or cuss at them or throw something at them. Hopefully not doing any of that, right? That you take it and I think it feels, I've mentioned this a lot of time. If there is some sort of discomfort in a conversation or something that is happening relationally, that is a place to really look.
Yes.
That's a place to look, because our design as humans is for our bodies to show us that discomfort, right? So you're also a massage therapist, so I'm not speaking a language that you don't know, right? Yeah. So our bodies are receptors and conduits for that, except that when we go through a challenge, except a couple of things. One, when we go through a challenge like that, depending on how we were taught to deal with it, a lot of us are going to try to withdraw or numb or hide from it or whatever. And that could come in a form of drugs or alcohol or overworking or over exercising or video, like whatever it is. Or we, what was the other one? I can't remember, but that is like the prime. Oh, the other part is like our society is mostly structured to facilitate that, to be distracted from what it is that's coming up. So
100%.
So pay attention to whatever that 10% in that conversation is, something that's going to is more than likely going to make you feel uncomfortable.
The most uncomfortable situations is where we experience our most important growth opportunities.
And it's the ones we run from the fastest.
Right. But what we seek is in the cave that we're too afraid to enter.
Yeah. Right. I like that. Definitely. Okay. So we're agreeing. I just wanted to point that out because it's a little bit of a challenge when you're going through divorce, as you know, to sort through some of that and get to that 10%, because there's actually a lot of discomfort in divorce, and we're for everybody, for men and for women. For men, it's very, very uncomfortable just because of the sense of chaos, and men don't like chaos and disorder and uncertainty, and so that just makes it really. So there's a lot of that. So tune into and try to dial down or distill what that 10% is that you're needing to pay attention to, and find a coach like Wendy to help you to talk about that and help you to dial into which part of that discomfort that you should at least be paying attention to first or foremost, and how you work through that. And so on working through that, let's talk about those three ways that you just described.
Okay. Right. So when you decide which one that you want to fall into, whether or not you disagree, whether or not you agree and that you accept it.
Okay. You tell me I'm no fun and I disagree. How do I process that?
So I guess it's
screw you. I disagree. Like, you're no fun.
Just be like, look, I don't agree with, if you need to verbally say it, then just be like, hey, look, I don't agree with you because I just asked you all of these questions. So if you feel that way, I'm just going to let you sit in that for a moment, and you can have your own emotions and your own thoughts. Like, that's you.
Okay. So it doesn't even have to be out loud. You can you're talking internally. I can agree with, I can just say like, I'm not agreeing.
I don't agree with that. And I'm just going to leave them be, like
your opinion. And and I know myself well enough, and I'm comfortable enough with myself to know that that's not in fact true.
Right. And that is self-ownership. When you can say, yes, this is who I am, and I accept that, and I can manage that, and I accept that despite what anybody else says, that is self-ownership.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So even if you agree with it and you're okay with it, it's the same process. You're just like, okay, yep, you're right. I'm not, and I'm okay with that. And so I'm going to take ownership of that.
Okay. All right. So we're talking, this is another layer, the ownership part of it, right?
Yes.
So because you could say, oh yeah, I agree with that, but then not take ownership of it.
And not take ownership of it. Or even if you agree with it, you may not be okay with it.
Okay.
Right. So if you're not okay with it, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Right. If you're not okay with it and you just sit and you don't change anything, then that turmoil is going to continue to grow, and you're going to just automatically, that poison inside of you will start creating arguments, will start creating conflict, right? Because now that you're aware of something that you're not okay with about yourself, and yet you're not changing it, that's going to create a turbulence and create a conflict within you. So
that's the one we need to be aware of.
That's the most important one to be aware of, because the hardest part is to take action to change.
Right. Well, I mean, you could argue the hardest part is to be aware. first. Like,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Like, okay, actually, you're right, and I'm not comfortable with that. Then what? So that's the one we want to
Yes.
be, because if we disagree, we disagree. Okay. If we agree and we're okay with how we are, then okay, that's fine. We go on. But if it is something that, like you just said, we don't like, and then we recognize that we want to change, then that's when the effort and the work really, really starts.
Right. And that's where most people stop,
Yes.
because most people don't like to do the work,
Right.
or they don't want to do the work that creates more division.
Right.
Right. So in that moment, I decided, oh, okay, that stops now. Right. So the next day, from that day forward, I started doing whatever I thought was fun, regardless. And I would invite him because, of course, he's my husband. I would want him to go. But if he decided not to go, that's his prerogative. But it's my prerogative to go, and this is what I want to do. So it created even more division. So some people won't take the action to change because they know it'll create more division. Right. Which means they know where that relationship is headed, which means they're intentionally making that decision. Right. And so it makes it that much harder.
Right. And some people start to do that, like you just described. I started to do this, and then they start to see a change and a shift in their life, and then the other person is not comfortable with that.
Right. Because I think it was a month or two later, we were in the kitchen, and he looks at me and he's like, so you're doing a lot more things now. And I was like, yeah, you told me I wasn't fun. I agreed with it. So I changed. And he's like, oh shit. I was like, yep.
I changed. Yeah, right. Exactly. And so often this was the case for me, that then it's, the hindsight is 2020, right? Then you look back and you're like, yeah, this is, this was something I was uncomfortable with. This is something that I changed. Or if it wasn't something, and, like I said, I was slower. Years later, I look back and I'm like, oh, this is something that is reoccurring, because these themes won't stop. If the one person tells you you're not fun or whatever it is, it's going to come up again. So pay attention to those patterns, whether it's in a relationship or something else that's happening in your life, like accidents, illness, other things. Again, our bodies and our environment around us are all receptors and conduits for all of this messaging that we're supposed to be getting and processing and doing something with and making the changes. So pay attention to those, because it's not going to just be one, oh, you're right, I don't like it. It's going to be
there's going to be several.
To hear the rest of this episode and access the corresponding resources, visit thedivorcedadvocate.com and become a member of our community. It's free to join and will provide you with the resources you deserve as a divorced or divorcing dad. Thank you for listening. God bless, and I'll talk with you next week.